Have you ever wondered what a school would turn into the scene of one of the most amazing stories you have ever heard? What if I told you that, on an average day, a situation that seemed to be a thing of the film just by revealing lessons that no one expected, and much less in the time of a crisis? It sounds crazy, but sometimes, the universe is in these games, right? That moment when everything seems to be peaceful, until an unexpected occurrence turns it upside down with the routine of the school, and the city as a whole. Have you ever gone through something like this? The feeling of the world, but surely the most likely, as if it were a lesson, directly to the destination? Stay with me until the very end, because that's all you're going to find out now that has the power to change his point of view on what it really is, a crisis, a lesson, or a story that is worth telling. Just imagine a scenario in which you look so peaceful, with the sun saying goodbye to the horizon, and the silence and taking care of the yard. The last of the students had already left, and the smell of the chalk is still hanging in the air. It is a place that you know well, the rhythm of the routine of the school, the one in the rhythm, which seems to be predictable, almost bored. But, all of a sudden, everything changed. A shadow of a stranger, in a way no one expected. And then, without warning, a figure enters the scene, carrying a mixture of nervousness and determination, just as if you were right there to take some of the lesson to the most difficult of all the tests. The school, which until then was a symbol of peace and learning, it becomes the stage for a situation that defies logic, humor, and even one's faith in the courts. And what happens next will leave you with mouth wide open, because sometimes the universe is teaching us in a way that's very different from what we expect. Keep your eyes open, because it's not just on a regular day, which is turned into chaos. It is all about how your life can change when they are stressed on the real lessons of morality, and learning that no one teaches you in a traditional classroom setting. You'll notice that, for each event in an unexpected way, there is a message that can make you reflect, laugh, and even inspire you to see the world in a different way. Now, in order to understand what is really behind all of this mess, we need to go to the next step. And, believe me, the next thing that happens will surprise you more than you can imagine. As we walk through this journey, we've learned that the answer does not always come as quickly as you'd like. Sometimes we need to slow down, take a deep breath, and let the silence would teach us something important. That is not all that needs to be addressed right away. It is in this moment of pause which you can connect more deeply with our hearts and with our questions, and even with a feeling that something bigger is going on, even though we may not fully understand. It's as if every step you take, every reflection, it was laying the groundwork for something that is yet to come. It's something that is going to make a journey to make sense of it in a way that is more comprehensive. And in that silence, we have also learned to listen to the truth, to understand what our heart wants to say to you when your words seem to be inadequate. Perhaps it is here that we find the strength to go on, even when everything seems to be up in the air. Because, at bottom, the search for meaning is something that we all share, even if in different ways. And it connects us in a way that goes beyond the words, by creating a sort of bridge to the invisible, between who we are and what we might yet become. If this is a time of reflection, it made sense to you, leave it here in the comments, as you can notice in this connection in his life. I love to know what do these words give you, cause each and every experience is unique and important. And, if you feel that this message has touched your heart, how about leaving a like? Thus, we are reinforcing our connection to it, showing that we are together in this walk. And, if you are still not a part of this journey, subscribe to the channel here. Every step is an invitation to explore more of that in our search for meaning and growth. Right now, for us to continue to deepen this topic, there's something even more important what you need to understand. And, if you feel that this message has touched your heart, how about leaving a like? Thus, we are reinforcing our connection to it, showing that we are together in this walk. And, if you are still not a part of this journey, subscribe to the channel here. Every step is an invitation to explore more of that in our search for meaning and growth. Right now, for us to continue to deepen this topic, there's something even more important what you need to understand. When you begin to realize just how much of our decisions, our choices, and even our thoughts shape our entire reality, it's a silent night comes on in all of us. The feeling that there is something much deeper, a truth that hides in the escape, the hustle of day-to-day, but when we found out, it gives us a sense of relief, of belonging, of connection that is true to what we really are. It is as if, for a moment, we could only see beyond the curtain, which has been placed from a young age, the one curtain, many times. It makes us believe that we are only what other people see, and that we are constrained by the external environment, or by a predestined fate. In fact, it all starts with the perception of subtle, such as an eye-opener that makes us question everything that we've been taught about success and failure, value, and purpose. Because, after all, the greatest freedom you can gain, the freedom to be ourselves, without the mask that we've created in order to please, to fit in, in order to avoid conflicts. This freedom comes from understanding that our choices have the power to transform not only our outer world, but especially in our inner world. And in this process, as quiet as it may seem, it is a revolution that is happening from within each one of us, a change in mindset, a shift in the paradigm. And then here comes the one concept that is often underestimated, and that is all what we have. All that we experience is a kind of reflection of what we carry in our minds and in our hearts. If we are caught up in the negative thoughts, the limiting beliefs, it's like we are feeding you a story of failure, of inadequacy, of the loss of hope. But, at the same time, we are able to learn how to plant the new seeds, cultivating a mindset of abundance, trust, and purpose. And that change does not happen overnight. It's a journey, building in daily, made up of small actions, the choices you can connect with what really matters to you. When we begin to understand that we are the authors of our own story, a new perspective is revealed. We are not victims of chance or the general external environment, but the creators of endless possibilities. This knowledge is very powerful because it gives us the autonomy to make choices, be different, to break with the patterns in the trap, the journey to our true selves. And, in the process, we have found that the most important thing is not what others think, but what we know and believe about ourselves. This is the real freedom, the freedom to learn, to accept, and to love each other, in their entirety, with all their flaws and strengths. I now want to go more in depth on this subject, because, in essence, this is a journey of self-discovery, is a discovery, a constant of all of the things that we look out there. It's only really to be found in the first one we went back inside. When we dive deep into our emotions, our doubts, our fears, and find the clues and precious about who we really are, in addition to the masks that we wear in order to survive in the world. And this discovery is, no matter how challenging that might be, it's liberating. Because it shows that our greatest strength lies in our vulnerability, our authenticity, and the courage to be who you are, in fact. And, in doing so, we begin to see the universe conspires in favor of those who have the courage to look in the mirror with honesty, and accept your shadow, and also to celebrate her light. This is true. It is like a seed that must be planted with care, and only with careful attention to the daily and total self-love. When we understand that we could rewrite our story at any time, that you are not stuck with a roadmap to a fixed, all that changes. Because there, we realize that the choices we make, however small they may be, they have a giant impact on our development. Every positive thought, every decision that is aligned with our essence, it is a piece that fit right in with the construction of a more real, more full. And this realization leads to a feeling of inner peace is so profound that, even in the face of difficulties, we were able to stay strong and trust that it all makes perfect sense. It all fits together in the great web of our personal growth. And it is precisely in this perspective that we are the creators of our own destiny, that we are beginning to see how much of the universe is very generous when we learn how to open up the space for the time. Because, a lot of times, what is stopping us from moving forward is in our own strength, for fear of change, of losing control. But, in fact, it is the delivery, in the confidence and trust that everything that is going on in the best possible way, we find the strength to carry on. Every challenge is an opportunity in disguise of a learning experience, a chance to reaffirm our faith in life, not only in our ability to overcome them. And, at the same time, this understanding has made us realize that we are not alone in this journey, that there is an energy that is larger, with a flat, invisible, and that will guide us when we hand over our fears and doubts. All of this invites us to reflect about the power we have to transform what had seemed set in stone, to rewrite the stories that we thought it was permanent. Because, after all, the greatest revolution that is going on inside of us, in our minds, in our hearts. And then, when you open it for such processing, we can begin to understand that true freedom is not the absence of problems but the ability to deal with them with courage, hope, and faith that everything is a lesson and a step in the right direction in the growth of our deepest self. And so our souls will be strengthened, and our perspectives are expanded, and the world around us shall reflect the light, which began to light up from the inside out. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. Because, deep down, this is a journey of self-discovery, is a silent exchange between what we know and what we decide to believe in a delicate dance, where each step reveals a new part, closer to the truth of who you are, even if that part of it is still hidden under the layers of doubt, fear, and expectations of external stakeholders. When we look inside and see our own shadows, we have begun to realize that many of our limitations that have been shaped by the narrative which we have learned to accept that as the truth, often without realizing it, that this narrative was more to do with our own limiting beliefs with reality. It is as if, for a long time, we have been living in a prison are invisible, and where each of the wall of it was an idea that, for each chain of a doubt, that carragavamos down from generation to generation, often without questioning, to simply accept that that's who we are. And, In the process, we can begin to understand that true freedom is not the absence of trouble, but with the ability to turn every obstacle into an opportunity for growth. This is a change of perspective is that it requires bravery, because it means giving up the comfort that keeps you committed to a version of ourselves that no longer serves you the most. And it is this courage. It often comes with a pain in silence, an uncomfortable inside that defies all of the things that we believe to be the truth, but who, in fact, it prevents us from learning. It is at this point that we are faced with a stark choice, to continue to believe in our own limitation and creating space for a new narrative, one that invites us to look beyond what the eye can pick up, and in addition to that, the mind tends to accept it as real. There comes the power of consciousness. This is the tool that, when properly used, it allows us to uncover behind the scenes of your own mind, to uncover the mechanisms that keep us stuck, and, with it, you start to release our inner selves. And this liberation is not an act of magic, but rather a natural consequence of a conscious decision to open up for self. Accepting who we are is a short list of a project, in construction, and each individual's experience, the more difficult it will be, it's an opportunity to learn something new about ourselves. When you go to look at our pain as a teacher, everything changes. Our attention turns to you, and what seemed to be a final judgment before an invitation to reflect on the changes, when you wake up. And it is at this point that you realize that the biggest impact of this change is within our power to decide how we want to live in, to be able to choose who we want to be the face of adversity. Because, after all, is our greatest strength lies in our willingness to rewrite history, to make a choice from a higher consciousness. And this is a choice, an attitude of courage, that is what brings us to the next level, a deeper connection to our inner selves, where peace is not the absence of trouble but the presence of an inner certainty that, no matter what comes, we are able to go through it all with hope and faith. And, when you think about it, we realize that this is a journey of self-discovery is, in effect, a transformation from the inside to the outside. When we begin to understand that our emotions, our thoughts, and we believe they are in the field of battle, where we decide who we are, it is clear that we are the authors of our own story, and with each decision that we take as a seed you sow in order to reap a future that is more aligned with who you truly want to be. And, in the process, the universe seems to be conspiring against the Emperor's favor, and bringing in the meetings, the opportunity, and the signals that reinforce this new narrative. This is a new version of ourselves that we are making with so much care, so much love, and, above all, with a courage that a lot of times we don't even know I had. I now want to go more in depth on this subject, because, when we dive even deeper, we realize that our deliverance comes from an understanding of the fundamental. It's all the things that we look outside of ourselves is a reflection of what we find on the inside. That's peace, fulfillment, and happiness. There are external parties, but in states that it can grow long on the way, and when we align our lives with our actions, our decisions, and our emotions. And this deep connection is possible only when we are truly honest with ourselves, when we want to outsource the responsibility for our well-being, and we are beginning to recognize that we are the creators of our own reality. At this moment, it changes everything, because it shall not be the blame for victimization, or to give up. Each and every one of us has the power to change your story, rewrite your script, to break free from the shackles and invisible, which before seemed to be unchanged. And this is the liberation, this is freedom, this is the result of a decision by a daily to choose from that is growing, even though the way be it said, even though the obstacles to appear for the test of our faith. And it is at this point that we realize that our progress is a journey of courage, of perseverance, of faith that expresses itself in action, and the confidence to every step, however small it may seem, it is a very important part in the construction of a new reality. This understanding leads us to understand that the greatest secret of life is that we are able to adjust the sails to the breath of emotions and events, to learn how to navigate through the storms built without losing your way, always with a hope, with a certain quiet, that's all part of a greater plan, which drives the growth of rice. Because, in the depths of this never-ending quest for self-knowledge, it is the bridge that connects us to the true meaning of freedom, and what it means to be at peace with who you are, what you feel, and what we decide to believe it. And the more we surrender to the journey, the more we realize that it will never end, because every time a new discovery opens up the space for new questions, new possibilities, and new ways to reinvent itself. And, if you think about all of this, we understand that the greatest change happens when we stop for food on the idea that we are victims of our circumstances, and that the world owes us something, or that our pain is a final judgment. Because you are, in essence, we are the creators of our own destiny, and that is the biggest truth, is that you can embrace that. When we assume this responsibility, we become free to create a life that will truly resonate with our souls, our dreams, deepest, and the core of the most pure. And this is freedom, this is peace of mind, is only achieved when we learn to put our trust in the power that we need to change our reality each and every day, in every decision, in every waking moment for a new opportunity. And so, we go forward, knowing that this trip is for our unique and wonderful, and that the best is yet to come, because, with every step we take is one step closer to ourselves, this version is the more authentic, more real, and more clear that we all carry within us, just waiting for the right moment to bloom. And as the silence stretched on, the soul, and I began to understand that all the things that seemed so hard, so heavy, was a source of so much deeper than just the outer obstacles that you encounter along the way. It was just a matter of perception, to choose, to how we decide to look at your own shadow and the light. And, in the process, and the truth was so quiet, almost a whisper, like a melody that only those who are really listening is unable to decipher. I'm beginning to realize that life, with all its nuances, there is a constant battle against the outside world, but it's a journey of self-discovery, to reconnect with our roots in the most genuine, in that it really makes sense for us. And with this understanding, it is as simple as it may seem, it is an internal revolution, a paradigm shift that causes us to look beyond the surface, beyond what we were taught to believe in. The problem is that many times we are so busy trying to please the world, by trying to fill in the blank with the expectations of others that you forget to listen to our own voice. And in this memory, we have lost sight of what true freedom is born from within, out of alignment with what we really are. It is not a search for perfection, but an acceptance of the deep, our imperfections, our mistakes, all the things that make us human and vulnerable, while at the same time, you are strong in your nature. When we were able to make that connection, we realized that the universe conspires in favor of this, that, and everything that seemed to be an obstacle, it was actually an opportunity in disguise to teach us something valuable. And there you have it. The fear turns to courage, the question clearly, and it seemed to be a storm, it becomes a gentle breeze that pushes us to move forward. And, in it, there are the questions that really matter. Who am I? Where did I come from? Where am I going? This is a question that leads us to dive a little bit deeper, to explore the unknown territories of our inner being, where the answers are not on the surface but in the depths of who we are as able to feel, think, turning. And, in so doing, we can begin to understand that our time in history, more painful or confusing as it may seem, it is only one, and each chapter has a purpose. Even with the pain, the more intense they carry in themselves the seeds of growth, of development, of a new chance at rewriting your narrative more authentic. After all, anything at all that we are in is a school in disguise, an opportunity to get to know each other better, to discover that our strength throughout our prospects who don't even know it exists. And it is at this point that you realize that the biggest challenge is not outside, but within us. It's a battle of the silent against the resistance against the fear of change, to leave behind what no longer serves us. And, at the same time, it's a kind of liberation, a chance to break free from the bonds that hold us to the comfort zone, to the stories we tell in order to justify our shortcomings. Because you are, in fact, are the architects of our own reality, the creators of our own destiny. And this awareness gives us an immense power, courage to keep going, even when everything seems to be uncertain or difficult. It's as if despotassimos to an ancient truth that has always been there, hidden beneath layers of fear and doubt, and all ready to be found out at any moment. The beauty of this trek is that it is never linear. Never the following is a ready-made formula, or to a predictable script. Each and every one of us has their own pace, in your strength, in your own classes. And this diversity is what makes it such a rich and fascinating. Because, deep down, we are all looking for the same meaning, connection, and authenticity. And when we find any of these elements within us, we begin to realize that what really matters is not what the world expects of us, but what we feel, what we desire, what makes us vibrate to the truth. And it is a gift that none can take away, a freedom that is born at that moment when we stop to hide behind a mask and we to show to the world with all of our heart. So, when you look at the inside, we see that the transformation is not something that just happens 1 hour to the next, but in a construction site daily, with a commitment to ourselves. Every decision, every action, every thought, is aligned with our truth, is shaping this new path. This new version is a more conscious and closer to the truth of who we really are. And then, even in moments of doubt, of fear, of weakness, there is a quiet strength that pushes us to follow, to keep on, to believe that everything will make sense, even if you're not able to see clearly to the final destination. Because, after all, the journey is the constant rediscovery of one's eternal quest for what we really are, beyond the mask, beyond the expected, beyond the illusion of control. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. When do we begin to understand that true transformation begins with the silence of our souls? We realize that slows down too many times. It's not a lack of strength, but it's the lack of courage to face our own truths. And that's when it all changed. When we allow ourselves to feel, to open ourselves up to vulnerability, we provide a space for authenticity and flourish, so that our lives come to the surface without the fear of making a mistake or looks a little different. Because you are, in essence, we are all unique, and this is what sets us free from the shackles of old, limiting belief that we took so long. It is a process of letting go of that which no longer serves us, to embrace our imperfections as part of this growth, such as rungs of a ladder that takes us higher and higher into of our evolution. And, to the degree that this understanding deepens, we see that life is not a competition against others, but it's a journey of self-transcendence, to overcome our own limits, to challenge what we believe to be the truth. This is an opportunity for us to reinvent ourselves constantly, creating a new narrative that reflects who you truly are, without masks, without fear. Because, deep down, all of the things that we look out there, it is an attempt to fill a void that can only be filled in when we connect with our essence as pure. And, in doing so, we realize that the true power lies in our ability to choose who they want to be each and every day, to take responsibility for our own happiness, our own growth. And it is that time of the wake-up call that we begin to see with clarity what is the greatest secret of life is not to gain something from outside, but to achieve inner peace and harmony with who you really are. Because, when the harmony that exists in everything around us has been changed, the difficulties become opportunities, and the obstacles to make the steps, and the fear melts away in the face with the realization that we are on the right path, even though it has not yet been completely designed. And, most importantly, to realize that this journey has no end, because it is a constant evolution, a call for us to draw closer to our true nature, which is eternal, infinite, and always present in all of us. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, because, when you think about all of this, we realize that the greatest gift we can give ourselves, it's the courage to be yourself, to be free from the bondage of the fear and the doubt, the trust in one's own light. In this light, it often becomes hidden behind the layers of insecurity, but it is our very essence, the purest, most of our deepest truth. And it is she who guides us on a journey of self-discovery that will help us to overcome the hard times, and that gives us the strength to go even when it all seems to come crashing down. Because, deep down, we are made of light, of love, and of immense power. It just needs to be ignited with courage and intent, the decision to look within, and to recognize that it really doesn't matter. And, in doing so, we have discovered that the universe is a mirror, reflecting back on what we feed within us. If you eat food of doubt, fear, and resistance, and the outside world is going to look like a hostile place. But if we choose to cultivate hope, gratitude, and self-love, everything around you starts to change, our way of looking at life. So, the big question is, to what extent are we willing to immerse themselves in the interior, on the face of what scares us, you accept that we are flawed, but wonderful in our authenticity? Because of this dive, we found out that we seek out only makes sense when we align with what we have. And that connection is the key to living a more fulfilling, more authentic, more free. We realize that the true power lies in our ability to choose to focus on, you decide who you want to be, and to create a reality which reflects our essence as pure. And, in doing so, we take the first step in a transformation that is never going to leave us, because it comes from within, and that is where it has always been. Says right there, I came to realize the truth. And as they delve deeper in the understanding, we begin to realize that this whole journey of self-discovery that is not the only one searching for answers outside, but it's a discovery of who you really are, of what is hidden behind the masks that we wear on a daily basis. Every decision we make, every thought of what you eat, it's a piece of this jigsaw puzzle that reveals who we really are on the inside. And a lot of times, it was accompanied by a feeling of release, as if a curtain was pulled open slowly, to reveal a light that had always been there, waiting to be lit. In the process, we become more aware of our own emotions, our small victories, and in our moments of doubt, as they will carry the knowledge that only someone who lives by the truth cannot be received. And it's interesting how, when we look inside, we realize that a lot of the limitations that we believe has not passed from the prison, invisible, that we have created in our minds. These currents in the unseen, and often, they are formed by the beliefs that have been imposed upon them, by the expectation that they were not of us, by a constant need for approval or to fit into a mold that has never been reflected in our essence is genuine. When we woke up to the reality that everything changes, the perspective is broadened, and we began to see the true power of transformation lies in our ability to rewrite these stories, built in, to pick up new thoughts, new actions, new ways that are in line with what you really are, and we want it to. And then, at that moment, the magic is this. To what seemed to be a constant struggle, a battle is internal. It's an opportunity to reconnect with your true essence. You will notice that its strength is not in the passage outside, or on the hunt for a validation, but on the courage to be who you really are, even if it means going against what society expects, or what other people think. This is an authentic courage is the one that leads to a true freedom, one that is not dependent on external circumstances, but from an internal decision to live with integrity and honor our values and to follow the calling of your heart. And the more that we go on this journey, the more clear it becomes that it all starts from the inside out. It's a real change doesn't come from trying to control the outside world, but to change our perception, the focus of our attention, to choose, to think, and feel in what we do well, what lifts us up. It is an act of self-love, and a reaffirmation that we are the creators of our own reality, that we all have the power to shape our lives, with every thought, every feeling, every conscious decision. This is a liberation movement, which calls for courage, yes, but also with a profound compassion for ourselves, as understanding that everything is a lesson in humility and empowerment, while at the same time. And then, when you realize all of this, one thing is clear, that the journey will never end, because this is an ongoing evolution, a dance between what we are and who we can become. Every step forward shows a new layer of ourselves, and new opportunities for growth, new challenges and, in fact, calls for a deeper level of our connection to the truth that has always been there, quietly, waiting for us to listen to it. And, in the process, we have found that the greater the force that is not in your strength but in the surrender, the courage to open your heart to what is real, even if it means leaving behind old beliefs, the old boundary, or broken dreams. Because, deep down, it's all part of a path of self-discovery, where every experience, every mistake, every victory, are the best that we can, in fact, understand, accept, and love in the fullness of our lives. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line. To think about in terms of this internal movement, we have realized that all change begins in our understanding of ourselves. And it is this perception, many, many times, it is rooted in the stories we tell, and what we have. The stories that tell us who we can or cannot be, what is possible or impossible, for that which is right or wrong. But, if we look closely, we can see that a lot of these stories are the only interpretations and versions of the reality that we may, at any time, rewriting. Freedom is to take control of the narrative, to understand that we are the authors of our own story, and that we may, at any time, to change the route you will enter a new chapter, delete the things that we hold. This is the essence of true power, with the awareness that it all begins inside of us, and that awareness is the key to unlocking a life of authenticity, more at peace, more in alignment with our deepest truth. And so, the journey continues, inviting you to explore each and every layer, every feeling, every shadow. You will still need to be lit up. Because it is only when we allow ourselves to see it all with honesty and compassion, can truly transform what needs to be changed, freeing up what needs to be released, and, finally, to live in a way that is true to our essence is pure. That's the beauty of all of this. You realize that, deep down, we are in a constant state of evolution, have been able to create a new reality every day, every choice, every waking moment. And, in its infinite, we find our true strength, the one who sustains us even in the most difficult moments. We know that it is all part of the process of growth, healing, and connection with all that is most real in all of us. So, if you think about it all, I want to encourage you to ask the question, what is the story that you have told about themselves? And what do you want to rewrite, in turn, to take it as truth? Says right there, I came to realize the truth. And while those questions echoed in her mind, I realized that a lot of the times we are caught up in a narrative that has been constructed by the expectations of the outside, out of fear, or even by trying to appeal to someone who is no longer a part of their gift. This is the story we tell about who we are. A lot of times, it's just a collage of fragments from the past to the opinions of others, and limiting beliefs, which, over time, were transformed into a kind of invisible wall all around our life. The more crazy it is that, for the most part, you don't even realize that we are living in a version of ourselves that we have been programmed by others, by circumstances, or by a number of conditions that are not even asked. However, it comes with a deep reflection of who we really are in addition to these layers. Who we are when we are basically those masks, those routines and beliefs that you insist on hold. Maybe, deep down, we are a spirit that is waiting silently to be understood. You want to be free of the burden of the expectations and what others think you should be. This is the essence. It is like a seed, dormant, waiting for the right time to blossom, to show their potential, and its most pure. And, on a journey of self-discovery, understanding, a connection with our inner selves, is like finding a map that's hidden that shows the paths before you, invisible, the doors which before seemed to be closed, and the possibilities of it. For fear, for doubt, we leave it to you to explore. Every decision, every choice, it's a chance to rewrite that story, creating a narrative where we have actors in mind, to take responsibility for our own lives and the impact we have on the world. This change in perspective, it is like a key that opens the door to true freedom, one that comes from within, and that it is not dependent on external approval, for material gain, or for input validation. It is free to accept, to love you exactly as it is, with all faults, and with all the dreams of you still seem far away, but that, in its essence, is already a regular part of your potential is infinite. And then, when you realize all of this, we mean that the transformation is not a one-off event but an ongoing process, a journey of discovery and to meet with those who you really are. It is like a delicate dance between what was, what is, and what it still could be. Each and every step is taken with a conscience brings us closer to our truth. We can undo the internal nodes, and to embrace the beauty of the authenticity of which should never have been hidden. And on this journey, it is crucial to remember that the change is born from within, out of the decision to be silent, to a commitment to develop a close relationship with the growth in their own nature. Because, at the end of the day, our aim is just to be complete, whole, alive and, in truth, more pure, and without the mask, without the mask, without the mask. And, in doing so, our actions, our words, and our choices will reflect that new reality, that this freedom is gained courage and love. I now want to go more in depth on this subject. Because, as he understands the essence, we find that the greatest battle is not out there but in all of us. It is in our minds, our beliefs, and our strength to accept who we are. In fact, it is as if we were in a silent revolution, a paradigm shift that will enable us to see beyond the limitations that we have created. And, at this point, the actual release happens when you stop seeking outside validation and begin to validate our own selves, our inner truth. It is an exercise in self-knowledge and the courage to stand up to the shadows, who continue to keep us from being who we really are. These are the shadows that lurk in our greatest treasures, our great potential, and they just disappear when you decided to enlighten every corner in the dark, in the light of self-love and acceptance. And, in the process, we have learned that our history does not have to be written by others, but with ourselves, and with each word, full of authenticity, courage, and hope. Because, deep down, all we want is to be free, to be who we are without fear, without shame, and without masks. And this is freedom, this is the true essence, which is the most precious gift you can give. Says right there, I came to realize the truth. And as long as this understanding becomes more and more clear, deep within us, we begin to realize that life in its essence is pure. It is a journey of self-discovery and constant. Each and every step that we take in the direction of authenticity, this is a piece that fits in the puzzle of one's soul, revealing an image, which, until then, has remained hidden beneath the layers of expectations, fears, and limitations. And in the process, the decisions that we are no longer merely in individual stocks, and will reflect who you really are, what we are and what we are willing to give up, so that the truth can flourish. Because, in reality, the journey is not so much about reaching a final destination, but rather about learning how to enjoy each and every moment of the revelation, each and every question that challenges us to go beyond that. Each and every fear will dissolve into the courage to face the unknown. The most fascinating part of it is that, to the extent that we give ourselves for this the path, we have started to understand that freedom is not something that is external, that is achieved with a material gain or social status, but on the condition that you are born in a decision every day to be true to our inner selves. Thus, every choice we make, every thought that you have grow to be a statement of the silent, who are, in fact, a declaration of resistance to all of the things that you try on the frame or in the limit. Believe in your own voice, even if it seems small in the face of noise in the world. It is an act of courage, which, over time, transforms the voice into a powerful force capable of shaping the reality around us. And then it all starts to make sense, in a way that seemed to be out of reach, like a light, smooth, illumines every dark corner of one's soul, revealing the beauty that is the only one who allows himself to be true, can't tell. In the process, we realize that the deepest truth, it is not a huge revelation, a sudden, but the construction is delicate, made with small steps in the authenticity of choices, and a provision to let go of that which no longer serves us. And to that freedom, that comes from the inside out, gives us a feeling of weightlessness that you can't explain it completely, it just feels. It's as if, when you release the shackles that bound them to the illusion of control, we can finally take a deep breath and feel the fresh air from a new perspective, and to realize that every single moment of vulnerability, it is also an opportunity to grow, to connect more fully with everything and everyone around us. When we begin to understand that our history did not need to be written for the other, it's a big responsibility, and if she said, the responsibility of taking the responsibility of your own life. And, in this act, take, and come in an immense freedom that allows us to create a story that is aligned with our dreams in the most magical, without fear of judgment or an opinion that is different. Because you are, in essence, we are all the same in the search for meaning, for a genuine connection, for a life that reflects who we are, in fact, not the one who others expect us to be. And then, when they realize that freedom is a gift that we can choose a daily basis, we are asked to ponder, to what extent are we willing to give up the old limitations of our true selves to shine through without being afraid? Up until that point, we were able to silence the inner voices that urge us to put in the box of what is acceptable to you, and to hear the voice of our intuition to guide us to what really matters to you. These questions will lead us to a crucial point: the courage to be ourselves, even if it means walking in the opposite direction to what seems like a safe or is expected. Because, in the end, what really matters is the authenticity that we have, and the truth that sets us free, and be sure that, if we are true to our core, we are contributing to a world in which each story is unique, valuable, and worthy to be lived to the full. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, this invisible layer, which will often prevent us from moving forward. It is our own resistance to change and the vulnerability of the unknown. And it is this resistance, it is often fueled by the idea that security is, in fact, in the prison of gold, a place where we would prefer to hide away from the fear of rejection, judgment, and much more. But, at the same time, that it is a bridge, one that challenges us to look inwardly, to encounter our in the shadows, and to understand that the real power lies in its ability to embrace all of the things that make us feel alive, even our failures. Because, you accept our fragile, we take the space for the authenticity of flowers with no face masks, no costumes. It is in this space of vulnerability, where the force is closer to the truth, that which is born of the recognition that we are all human, flawed, but deeply, deeply capable of loving and being loved in our lives. And, in so doing, we can begin to understand that the freedom we seek is not of an escape from the world, but it is a deep integration with who you truly are, a balance between what we have, what we feel, and what we want to create. Thus, each step in this direction, it becomes a celebration of our common humanity, and a statement that you can be all at the same time a heavy, fragile, determined, and open, safe, secure, and ever-changing. And, in the process of transformation, a fact that is too often preferred to ignore, that real change takes time, patience, and above all, compassion is overwhelming in and of ourselves. Because, too often, we charge too much, you want quick results, we hope that everything will fit in next to no time. But that's the beauty of the journey. You are just His weakness in its ability to teach us how to enjoy each and every stage, each of the learning process, each and every drop that makes up the most powerful. And it is here that we realize that patience is not a virtue of a passive, but an active force that sustains all of our developments. When we learn to be patient with our growth, we provide a space for change to happen in a natural way, without any resistance or excessive force. And in this space of peace and acceptance, we are able to see more clearly what it is that really doesn't matter, the thing that really makes it stand out in your journey. Well, I'm beginning to understand that the key is not to speed up the process, but rather to rely on the rhythm of your heart, and with all the wisdom of the time, they always give the right answers at the right time. It's a lesson in humility and self-love that can teach us to cherish every single moment as an opportunity to become better versions of ourselves. There's no hurry, and without a trial. And then, when you wake up to this realization, we began to realize that it's in our history, with all its nuance and detail, it is a reflection of the courage to be true to allow you to try, make mistakes, learn, and move on. Each of the chapters which we have written, it is a statement of the silent. We are the authors of our own lives. We'll be able to transform the pain into lessons learned, dreams and actions, and how hard. This is the true magic of the take to be the author of our destiny, to realize that, even on the nights longer and darker, and there's a light within you that never goes out, in a hope that drives us to keep going, to seek and to create. And then, when we look inside, we find an endless supply of courage, and of love, and of a truth, one that reminds us that we are capable of all of the things that we believe to be possible. Because, after all, the greatest freedom is to be true to what you feel, who you are, and what you want to build, not afraid to be slightly different, with no shame in being vulnerable. And so, we go forward with an open heart and a soul to take, because we know that our journey is our own, unique, and full of possibilities that we can explore. Says right there, I came to realize the truth. And as long as we walk this path so close to each other, which is so full of wonders that many of the times, the people who live can't figure it out, it's impossible not to notice that this search for authenticity, it's a sort of a silent revolution from within. Every choice, every decision that we make when we align with who you really are, it seems to open the door to a people who seem to be far away, almost out of reach. And that's when you realize that the biggest challenge is not out there, on the obstacles that we face, but in the us, the courage to leave behind all the masks that we wear so long a time, in order to face our own shadow, and, at the same time, to celebrate our lights on. It is a journey of self-discovery, understanding that each and every scar, every doubt, every fear, it's part of the whole package of who you are, and take them to the next step more true, for the transformation of needs. With this understanding of authenticity, and it is not a goal, but an ongoing process, it gives us the strength to move forward, even when everything seems to be uncertain, even if the opinions of others try to pull us in the opposite direction of our lives. Because, deep down, you know that there is only one truth that matters, yours. And that truth, when discovered, it's a sort of compass, a guiding light that illuminates the path in the middle of the storm inside. And that, in this light, it is sometimes a fine one, it never fades away completely, you just need too many people to learn to trust him or her, then what it means, even though the world is out there to tell us we are wrong, or that we don't have enough on its own. The courage to be who you are, and show us the full, it is a revolution in the everyday, and a reaffirmation of that freedom is born from within, out of a conscious decision not to hide it in slow. Each step in this direction, it is a victory, a celebration of the quiet we are living in our truth, with all the attendant risks and opportunities that it brings. And, while doing so, we create a new narrative to ourselves is a story that tells of the courage, self-love, out of respect for those who are, in fact. In this story, which we can write on, it's a gateway to a life, lighter in weight, more fully, more in tune with everything that touches our heart. It's like, to be free from the shackles of one's identity that does not belong to us, we libertassimos also, the weight of the mask that suffocates it, and then we were able to breathe more easily, and with more authenticity, and more fun. And, in the process, we have realized that all the things that seem to be an obstacle and becomes an opportunity for growth, and the fear of it, in fact, it is a bridge to the courage and vulnerability, it is the most direct path to a strength closer to the truth. Because, deep down, we are all after the same thing, to feel that they are seen, heard, accepted for who you really are. And this, at times it seems so hard to make it clear when we understand that our strength lies in being true to what we feel, what we believe, what we want to build. So, every decision we take, every step we take in the direction of your heart, it's a statement of freedom. It is a proof that we are living in the truth, even if that world is still trying to convince us of the contrary. And so, we are going to be discovered, rebuilding, reinvent itself, to understand that this is a journey you never had an endpoint, but rather to an endless cycle of learning and improvement. Because you are, in essence, is the greatest gift we can give ourselves. It is that authenticity, and the courage to be who you are, in fact, without fear, without reservation, with all of the beauty that lies in our humanity. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. And, in doing so, I realize that the quest for inner freedom, and it is also a way to give ourselves the power that too often, we perceive the opinions, expectations, rules that have been imposed on the course of the life. When we are free from these chains and invisible, we have felt a lightness and an almost unspeakable, as if it's a mist too heavy to be lifted and we can finally see what has always been there, hidden beneath layers of fear and doubt. It's as if, as we are reconnecting with our inner selves, we begin to see with clarity that the fight outside, there are, in fact, it is a reflection of an inner battle that we are going through on a daily basis. And it's the most beautiful when you realize that this is a battle that is not against the world, but on our own strength to accept who we really are. When we surrender to the truth, everything changes. Their relationships, their decisions, the way in which we look to the future. Because, deep down, what you are looking for is not approved, but it's a genuine connection with ourselves and others. And it is this connection that, when strengthened, He gives us a power within you that nothing can destroy it. This power comes from the recognition that we are all deserving of love, respect, peace, to simply exist, to be human, in all our complexity. And, by enabling us to live out that authenticity, we begin to realize that what really matters is not what other people think or want, but what we need more of the real in all of us. Each and every one of those little choices that courage is like a seed planted in our soul, and with all the time, they are transformed into a forest of possibilities, of dreams fulfilled, a life that pulses with authenticity. And it is this freedom to be who we are, where we have the most processing power, the one that doesn't depend on external circumstances, but from an internal decision to honor all of our experiences. And, in doing so, we realize that we all seem to be so difficult, so impossible, it begins to take on a new meaning in it, because we fight against ourselves, and we fight for ourselves, for our evolution, and our truth. And in this fight, which seemed to be a hard one, if it makes the dance of light in a continuing celebration of who we are becoming. Because, deep down, this day is an opportunity for us to discover, to learn how to love every part of us, so that autocompasio will be the basis of everything. There is nothing more liberating than to realize that if we are faithful to who we are, we load the weights, they do not belong to us, and so we opened up the space for in order to live more fully, more in tune with what really matters to you. And, based on this understanding, everything is transformed. Our actions, our words, our choices. Because, after all, is what we are looking for is no perfect life, but a life that's true, where we are to be whole, complete, authentic. So, we went ahead, realizing that this quest is ours, made up of the moments of courage, vulnerability, and for His unconditional love for ourselves. And, in doing so, we find that the larger the revolution starts inside of you, and you, to be free from the bonds that we hold, we are the beginning of a cycle of endless possibilities and discoveries. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. And in this deeper dive, we begin to understand that everything that seems so distant, so complicated, has actually always been here, right in our essence. It is as if a curtain is slowly pulled back, revealing a space that has always been within our reach, but which, for some reason, we insisted on ignoring. And the discovery of this hidden truth leads us to a sense of liberation that is difficult to put into words, because it cuts through deep layers of our being, touching that which we often cannot even name. It is a silent awakening, a light that begins to shine softly, illuminating what once seemed dark, confused, full of doubts. And at the same time, we realize that this light is not something external, but a spark that has always been inside, waiting for the right moment to ignite. At this point, we begin to understand that our journey is not just a search for answers, but an internal reconstruction, a reprogramming of all that we have been taught to accept as truth. Our mind often acts as a battlefield where limiting concepts clash with dreams and endless possibilities. And this incessant struggle is what prevents us from seeing clearly what we really are, what we really can. When we realize this, everything changes, because from that discovery, we begin to questioning our own decisions, the beliefs we carry, the masks we wear to fit into a world that often asks us to be someone we're not. This reflection leads us to a kind of rebirth, an opportunity to look within with more courage, with more love, without fear of facing our own shadows. Because, in fact, they are only parts of a whole that we are learning to accept, to love, to integrate. And in this process, we realize that the biggest secret is not out there, in the magic formulas or the ready-made answers that society insists on offering us. It is within, hidden under layers of fear and expectations that we have created over time. And this discovery is a liberation, because it allows us to see that we are solely responsible for what we live, for what we believe, for what limits or liberates us. It is a responsibility that, in fact, is a gift, because it gives us the power to transform everything from the moment we recognize this truth. This journey of self-knowledge is like a delicate dance between accepting who we are and at the same time wanting to transform ourselves. And this transformation is not a rupture, but an expansion, an enlargement of our understanding of what is possible. It is as if each step taken into oneself is a bridge that connects us to a truer, more integral version, more aligned with our purpose. And in doing so, we realize that life is not a series of obstacles, but a constant opportunity to learn, to evolve, to connect with something greater. This perception changes everything, because it frees us from the illusion that we are separate, that we are alone on this journey. In fact, we are part of an infinite web of possibilities, of energies that intertwine and propel us forward. And the more we embrace that truth, the stronger our sense of belonging, of purpose, of self-love becomes. It is as if, by unraveling this secret, our soul finds a new home, a peace that has always been within our reach, waiting only for us to take the first step to recognize it. This understanding transforms our vision, our relationship with the world and, above all, with ourselves, opening doors that we never imagined were possible. And it is in this moment of deep connection that we realize that true change begins within, in the courage to be sincere with who we really are, regardless of what the world expects or demands. Because at the end of the day, we are the ones who choose what to carry, what to leave behind, what to nurture and what to transform. And that choice is the most powerful act of all, because it puts us in charge of our own life, gives us the map to a truer, lighter journey, more aligned with our essence. Now I want to go even deeper into this matter. If you made it this far, it's because this message spoke to you in some way. Few people can take the time to reflect on these deep questions, and if you are here, surely something inside you recognizes the importance of looking at this journey with more attention and affection. Comment there, "I'm with you until the end," to show me that this connection made sense to you too. And if this content touched you, subscribe to the channel, because here we continue to explore these issues, seeking to understand more about who we are and how we can transform our lives with small daily actions. And, of course, if this conversation added something to you, leave the like. Thus, this reflection can reach more people who, like you, are also looking for meaning and clarity. Staying until the end and sharing this moment is a way to strengthen this message, which is made to touch hearts and open paths. There is a video here on the side that complements this subject. Click and continue with me there. Our journey does not stop here. It only gains new steps, new discoveries. I hope to see you in the next video, because each story, each reflection, is part of a greater path, which we travel together, calmly and attentively. And remember, this journey is also yours, and it begins with a choice. So stick with me, because the best is yet to come.